Hello, thanks for tuning in again to our second show of Thompson's Talk Movies. I'm Andy,
I'm Todd.
And I'm Gabe.
and this is our second episode. This time we're talking about 1917. And then I watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
And I watched a new Netflix series called Outer Banks.
And I'm doing Dexter, the TV series on Netflix.
As far as 1917 goes, it was released in December 2019. It directed by Sam Mendes. It won Best Cinematography for the Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture. It made $380 million and cost $90 million to make, which is not as much as I thought, honestly. But
Well, they had to kill a lot of people to make it, so that had to cost extra. I mean, fake dead, but fake dead's expensive.
Fake Dead is expensive.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of 1917?
I liked it. I just watched it, and I watched it on. I think I had to rent it on. You had to rent it on Apple TV is where I got it,
Or you can rent it on Amazon as well.
or Amazon. Yeah, it's not free on any of the streaming things. Which I was a little bit surprised about with the old, pandemic rules that are out there now. But
It's a little new, but I paid $6. But,
yeah. And so it was good. It was, I hadn't heard anything about it, and the point of view of the camera that they used was very, very interesting and different. And it took me a while to get used to that, but it was good.
I knew it was made to look like one shot before I watched it, which is kind of unfortunate because I wish I had not known that before.
I knew that too.
There was a couple of spots where you could tell where like, oh, there was where it cut. Because there was one where he was getting onto a truck and someone else was getting on after him, and they sort of like bumped his backpack into the camera, sort of, and I was like, okay, that's another scene. That was a cut, obviously.
Oh, I see.
I mean, not obviously, but like that's why they won Best Cinematography, because it didn't look like a new scene.
Yeah, because they kind of they did it really well, like where they cut other times.
There was only like two that I could. I was actually actively looking for them, and I really only found like two or three, and it was and there must have been like 10 at least, because.
And therefore the corollary to that is that the movie takes place sort of in real time. So even though there is one gap in the movie where I won't tell you what happens, but where but there's two chunks of time that are look like it's pretty much
the same. It's about like
in real time.
It's about halfway through the movie as that chunk of time goes away. So.
Right. So it's and now of course when you think back on the movie and all that happened, it doesn't, probably not all of that could happen in 45 minutes, but nonetheless, it
happened on the screen in 45 minutes.
Exactly, and it seems realistic, or reasonably realistic at the time, and there was they used some pretty well-known actors in the movie. It wasn't.
A couple of British people,
mostly British actors, right?
But they got the pretty well-known British people.
Yeah.
They, the two youngsters.
I forget what's the star's name? I forget.
The stars, the two main guys in the show are Dean Charles Chapman and George McKay.
George McKay.
George McKay is the guy that's in it pretty much the whole time.
Right, and he's like it's to me.
He's the main character.
I think the movie rests on him pretty much.
Big time, yeah.
And so he's got super expressive eyes, which they use greatly. And if you haven't seen him in a movie, you probably recognize him. He's not super famous, but he's pretty famous.
When I was watching it, Dean Charles Chapman was like, I know that guy from somewhere, and I didn't look it up until afterwards. He was on Game of Thrones for like a second.
I've seen Dean on other.
How about George?
Shows.
And George McKay, I hadn't seen him. Even when I looked into his other stuff.
Oh, I'd seen him before, but I don't. I mean, I know I recognized him, but I didn't.
Sure.
But he wasn't famous, and but he's going to be famous, I think, if he isn't. he's that face of his is just
After
crying
this,
out.
he'll
Yeah.
he'll definitely
crying
get
out
some
for even just like a romantic comedy. I mean, geez, how would you pass that guy
Well,
up?
every
yeah.
like action movie guy gets a romantic comedy at some point.
Exactly.
If it's a good
Bruce
if it's
Willis?
a good action, they usually
Ooh,
yeah.
probably not, but maybe.
Well, what are you talking about? Didn't he do no
Arnold
Moonlighting?
Schwarzenegger, maybe.
I mean, that's not
Oh,
really
the
romantic
TV,
comedy,
the TV show. Yeah.
but like that's definitely
That's where he started though. Was on Moonlight.
that was before Die Hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, my bad. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And Moonlight, he was with Sybil Shepherd, and it was
Yeah.
kind of a romantic comedy-ish
There was
kind of a
there
show.
was tension.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
not always romantic tension, but then tension.
Yeah, true. And so Gabe, what did you think of that? I mean, it was you're our history buff. What did you think? Was it
Yeah.
is it real? Was it realistic, like World War I and all those things?
Sure, I mean, I guess so. I'm pretty sure it's all realistic. Like, probably mostly. I mean, they
The sets
do,
were cool, weren't they? With
they
all
were
the trenches that they dug
cool, yeah.
and it was like it was a different kind of warfare back then.
Yeah, like they show like how like I don't know, like if you watch the movie or you're gonna watch it, you just see how like they put like every thought into like everything, like thought into everything.
Oh,
There's a lot of attention to detail. big
Like
time.
yeah, like when they're running through the trenches and they got the camera behind them, so you're running through everything along there's just
Every
a
single
ton
rock.
of guys and they're doing all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
You know, you could
They're
like
smoking,
study.
they're eating, and,
Yeah, they're
Playing
messing
cards,
around,
they're
playing
sleeping,
and then they're
cards,
like bumping
sleeping.
into them as they're trying to run. 'Cause
Yeah, it's
It's-
I don't know if some of it was probably improvised, you know, but
basically,
But like, just look like your butt just got kicked or something like
yeah,
that.
like
It's like
from the
and also you could see that there's a lot of like apathy and depression and crazies
yeah.
and all sorts of range of people that they just bump into.
yeah,
You know, like
kinda.
the crazy lieutenant, and then the warmongering lieutenant, and the I don't give a crap guy.
Crying
you know, it's like-
lieutenant.
yeah,
and
the
the,
crying
right
guy,
at the end, right at the
Yeah,
end, he just
he's
comes
like,
up
he's
to
like,
a
and he's like,
yeah. Exactly.
and like by the end, he loses. Like I was paying so much attention to their garb, what they had on and stuff,
Yeah.
and their backpacks and stuff, and they're all their tiny little packs. Like it wasn't all just one pack.
Right.
Like when he was taking stuff off, he's like, here's my food pack, and here's my clothes, and here's my bandages, and here's my other stuff, and like, and by the end of it, he's I mean he's not naked, but he's only got his uniform on.
Yeah.
So like. When he was losing that stuff, I was very aware of it, and like, there's one part where he just runs away without a gun, and I was just like saying out loud, like, "Go back and get it." I mean, but no, it was the way it
Yeah.
was.
Well,
That's the
you're
whole
point of
the
you're
movie.
invested in it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of you live the life of you live a day in the life of this man, this one man,
Yeah,
more or less.
yeah, pretty
And
much.
it has a so therefore that his ability to make you like him, he's kind of a complex character. At first, you're not sure.
It's very
you know,
small.
how loyal he is, or
Yeah.
how good a friend he was, and then you see what happens to him, and you see him trying to do the right thing, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it.
So, yeah, and another thing is, like, the movie's kind of loosely based on a true story. Like,
Right.
there was a time where this actually happened. Like, sometimes, like, probably a couple times where, like, they cut the telephone wire and they had to get a message to them.
Mhm.
But, like, usually they did it by planes, but, like, there wasn't that many. They didn't have very
Let-
optional planes during that time.
We could talk a little bit about Sam Mendes, the director, writer of the movie. Supposedly, it comes from some stories that
Wasn't his like,
grandfather
His grandfather
Yeah.
gave stories.
told him stories like this one, or
And
similar.
his grandfather was connected with the main actor George McKay, I think.
Is that right?
Or,
Or the guy that he
Sean, or
portrays,
this
yeah.
guy, Sean Mendes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes is a very accomplished director that I must say I didn't really know his name that much, but he won an Academy Award in his first movie called American Beauty, if some of you have seen that, with Kevin Spacey, and that was kind of a big splash of a movie
It
back
was
in
big,
1999.
yeah, huge.
It was and Road to Perdition. He's directed Skyfall and Spectre, a couple of James Bond movies that are pretty well received.
This guy
And
was pretty
And so yeah, so anyway, he's I guess a superstar. He's 54 years old, so he'll probably do some more movies. In Clint Eastwood years, he's just getting started. So
like 1918.
yeah,
too,
he's
right?
probably he's like
Or
Clint Eastwood
1917
25
too.
and Clint Eastwood years.
1918.
Exactly, 1918. So I was a little bit, the name of the movie, 1918, I was a little bit...
1917.
1917. I was a little bit
You got
sorry.
it in your head.
Yeah, I was a little bit, that's kind of a funny name, but I guess it
didn't
works.
really it didn't really do much. I mean, it worked. The title's fine, but there was no reference to the year itself. Like, it was a time in history and stuff like that. But
They were correct. It was in 1917 when the Germans made that move back to the, I can't remember what line exactly where it was, but and it was a pretty defensive position, and they did do that in 1917. But it could be, I'm thinking it's like April, May-ish is when it's set, or summertime.
they said April. Yeah, April's. So, the one thing that I kind of liked about 1917 was the war movie itself. Is such a small piece of a war movie.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? So most war movies, they kind of, when I was reading critics stuff about it, they were kind of hearkening it to Saving Private Ryan, which is similar because they really only follow one group of people in Saving Private Ryan. It's really there's not like a concerted effort to make it one shot or something like that, which this one did, obviously. But the idea and the story, folks trying to get their families out of harm's way and stuff like that. So that was similar, but there was no cuts back to the general or cuts forward to the other guys on the front line, or cuts back to the main characters, struggling with what they got to deal with and stuff like that. So you never could take a break, kind of.
What, there were no cuts?
You were the one where they cut out a couple hours or something like that. I never felt tension. Tension was built really well, and then you sort of relaxed a little bit in that, and then tension was again built really well.
But I mean, just to refresh my memory, there's no cuts away from the hero the whole movie.
He walks off screen, and it pans away from him. But the camera never blacks and then redoes it. Never ever. Just that one time in the middle of the very middle movie. I remember one spot where there's a shot of him on the second floor of something, and the camera kind of comes over his shoulder, and you see him, but then the camera keeps going outside.
Oh yeah.
And basically
so he's off camera some.
Right. So basically, he goes down the stairs while the camera just pans down the building,
Right.
and then eventually he's just in front of the camera. And the camera
so
just is
they
right
don't really
there.
cut from him.
So he doesn't cut from him, but he's off screen a couple times.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
So
really
to go to
cool.
the
Yeah, well, I
bathroom
mean,
or something.
it's way more. I think it's way more minimalist than Saving Private Ryan was.
Oh, big time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to think of another movie that it's similar to it. It's remember the last war movie I saw was Midway. Do you remember Midway?
Yeah.
Boy.
So it was like a giant
There's
opposite.
It's way too much in that almost.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it was I liked it, but I mean, it was cool. But this was kind of interesting to see what he could do.
And that's why I think the $90 million makes sense too, because it was so small. There's really only
It's
two parts
hours.
where
It's 2 hours.
there's a bunch of folks in the beginning and there's a bunch of folks at the end, and in the middle it's really just the two of them. And then they run into one person, and then they go away, and then maybe two people go away, and then
With World War I, how messy it was, all the using of the gas and stuff like that, and all the stuff that you hear. It's like that, but it kind of gives a new spin on it, kind of in a way, kind of shows the heroicness. It's not just them all sitting around waiting for another thing to happen. It's kind of it's cool in that way.
Yeah, it kind of is like him out in the wilderness in some ways.
sort of.
Yeah.
A different kind of wilderness. A lot of people.
Have you guys ever read All Quiet on the Western Front?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it's about World War One, and he's just it's just about a group of guys, and they're just on the Western Front, Germany, and
Wait, are you bringing up a book on a movie review? video?
No, I've already read it before. But then,
I don't know. Let me check the rules to see
I'm
if
not
Thompson
sure.
Talk
I
movies.
don't know.
Well, I think
don't
when we
know.
decided to do this show, I guess it doesn't say it.
Thompson's Talk
Yeah.
Movies and
I think he did a book the first episode. Too.
I know he brought up. Oh, that's right. Okay,
Yeah,
keep doing
right,
it.
right.
Okay.
Mr.
He
Litter,
brought
yeah,
up Huckleberry
okay.
Finn. That's right. I forgot about that. I
Yeah.
didn't give you crap then. I shouldn't have given you crap.
The young guy aces us again.
Oh my God, no
Yeah.
kidding. Maybe I just
I
want,
haven't
don't
read
want
a
to look
book
bad.
for, yeah.
I think that's what it
but
is.
Yeah.
but yeah, they talk about all like the bad stuff and stuff. Like they don't really talk about like the happy stuff in that book. So it's like
Yeah.
really, really depressing. This one's not as depressing
Not
at all.
Mm.
It's very like brave.
Yeah. 1917. I'm
Go and see it.
giving it.
I wish I knew that at the beginning of this one too, that I wish I'd seen it in the theater. Because you were talking about last episode about Parasite, how
Right.
you got distracted a couple times,
Yeah.
and I think in this one I would have been way more. Like at the end, the second half, I basically sat and watched it, but the first half I was like making food or something like that, and I would have probably like. I mean, I loved it, but I probably would have liked it a lot more if I would have been in the theater,
It's the kind of
in the
movie-
dark and stuff like that.
It's kind of movie you want to immerse yourself in.
You want to be
Again,
like,
yeah, this one
You
is
don't want
if
to.
you're in the movie theater, you
Even
can be
more than
awake the whole
Parasite.
time.
right.
Even more than Parasite, I think, because
Maybe even yeah.
there's a certain a feel that this guy's trying to get into.
You kind of can't look away, because like even like the movie looks away and it misses things, like you know,
Yeah.
and even I looked away and I missed and I had to rewind and stuff like that. So like, it's very like up to the second kind of in a lot of ways and stuff like that. And yeah, it's way good.
Yeah,
It's
go
very-
check out the first episode of Parasite. That was a pretty good episode.
It was a good episode.
Yeah. We reviewed Parasite in our first episode. Even though we're only in our second episode, I've gotten a theme with my individual review, and that is
Body count.
No. Yeah, the first one was Body Count. No, it was, you see, Netflix just not too long ago instituted a top 10 in America. I know that's how self-centered is that. But anyway, top 10 in the U.S. it says. And so last episode I reviewed the top one, and that was a big body count movie. But this one is a teen drama called Outer Banks, and the Outer Banks is in one of the Carolinas. It's kind of a line of islands that sits off the coast, and it's kind of a resort area. And this is Florida Keys, something like that. Envisioning. I've never been there, but this is a story about some teenagers living in the Outer Banks and their adventures, and it is pretty addicting.
Zombies?
No vampires, no zombies.
Werewolves.
No, but you're almost there. Buried treasure in this case.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Buried treasure.
Something that actually occurs in nature.
Good. And they got all the usual things there, beautiful young people and living on the beach and with
Awesome.
boats and all that kind of stuff. But I enjoyed it. I've watched, I think there's 10 episodes in the first season. I've watched maybe 3 or 4. It's all the time I had this week. But it's good. I could recommend it. It's not in bad taste, and the heroes are likable, and it's a little bit fantastic, but the adventures. But they
Is it more of an adventure kind of style, or
Yeah,
is it more romance kind of?
it's a little bit of both. It's sort of like
They kind of do both at the same time.
yeah, it's kind of like Hardy Boys or I'm trying to think of another series like it.
I mean, Hardy Boys was only adventure though. There was
Yeah.
no romance in that at all.
Right. In this case, there is some. So, yeah, it's a mix.
But I mean,
mix
it's like
of
a
things.
group of kids that
Right.
that hang out together and also.
Right.
get
Then there's
into
another group of kids
shenanigans.
that they do shenanigans against, and
Oh, okay.
so it's
like the town a couple down. Like,
yeah,
do they have a
rich kids,
rival?
poor kids.
Oh, sweet. Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's,
and the main characters
Greasers
are the poor kids,
versus
of course, probably.
mods. What's that?
Greasers versus mods.
Yeah, to pick
the-
an old reference.
So the
I don't,
Yeah, the hero is one of the poor kids.
wait. Okay, okay. Is it a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing?
No.
Like, no.
Oh yeah, there's Romeo and Juliet in there.
Like
sure.
you got
Sure.
the poor boy and
and,
with the
and
rich,
girl or vice versa. Yeah.
Vice versa. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. You got to have that, I guess. But okay, is there only one couple like that? Or is
Oh
there
no,
more?
they're developing
but is that Romeo and
unnumbered
Juliet?
couples in the
But that's not Romeo. Well,
I mean, they're not
Well,
rich and poor. Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
they're not rich and poor. They're
They're
just
feuding.
They're
rich and
feuding.
rich.
So
Yeah.
they're well, yeah. Sorry, rich and poor. That's not right. That's
Yeah.
not Romeo and Juliet.
But
But
they,
kind of like Romeo and
yeah.
Juliet.
Sorry, and I'm bringing up a book now. I mean, and it's a play and not even a book. Terrible.
exactly. Well, there's a few movies running to it, but
True.
yeah, I know I could recommend it. It's fun if you're looking for a diversion. I would give it a number one. And yeah, I could read you a little bit about it here. That they're the characters. I did not know any of the actors. They're all young people.
Netflix original then too.
It's a Netflix original. Yeah, Chase Stokes, Madeline Klein,
These are the
Madison
actors' names
Bailey,
or the
yeah,
characters.
Jonathan Davis, and
Let's look 'em.
Rudy Ponkow.
Oh,
Anyway,
the actual guys.
Those are all the young actors, and there's a couple of older ones that I might have seen before,
Like,
but
are there any moms and dads that are like,
oh yeah,
oh my god, I remember him from?
maybe.
Some
Yeah,
of
they're
them-
they're even a little bit new, but
Young
yeah,
too, I guess.
I've seen
Or
a couple
yeah.
of moms and dads, or the sheriff and stuff like
Because
that.
usually when you have like a teen comedy like that, they usually try to get the moms and the dads to be folks that like are recognizable and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
oh, excuse me.
Right.
Like I remember in like there's a silly one that like Orange County was a silly movie, but there was a Jack Black, Colin Hanks movie, and Catherine O'Hara and Harold Ramis were like
Oh,
moms
sure.
and dads in
Oh, yeah,
that movie
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just got those folks to come along too. But
That's yeah. Anyway, so that's my episode. It runs on Netflix. It's got 9 or 10 episodes, and they say there's going to be a season 2. So there's that, and
how many? You said 10 episodes per season.
well, in the first season, there's only one
Okay.
season.
Oh,
It's a
okay,
brand
but
new
they're
one.
gonna do another.
Hence the number 1 rating.
One thing that I thought interesting
okay.
is
Yeah.
number. Wait, isn't it?
It's number 2 now, but it was number 1 when I started watching
Yeah.
it a week
Oh,
ago.
sweet.
So
Okay.
Yeah. What's interesting about the Netflix thing is that 7 out of the 10 of like the top 10 are Netflix originals.
How interesting.
yeah,
How interesting. How long are the episodes?
50 minutes.
Oh, sweet. Okay. That's some good content then.
Yeah. So there you go. That's called Outer Banks, and I kind of liked it partly because of the terrain too. I assume it's maybe filmed there, or at least some of it, and so it's kind of fun to see the ocean and some of that terrain. Like I say, it's kind of like big sandy points.
It was
and lots of boats driving around.
It was the location in Canada that looked the most like South Carolina.
Exactly.
Filmed on the north shore of South or Lake Superior. No.
Exactly. There's a couple. I got a couple
the
of friends that
warmest
live down there
month
in the
ever.
in Carolinas, and they always tell me how beautiful it is.
Oh, sure.
So,
Is it a kind of like a TV teen kind of thing? Like, what's the rating? Would you figure?
PG-13.
PG-13. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like not actually real, right?
What,
Well, I mean, like not like a realistic, like what do you call those? It's like a sitcom, or is it like no?
oh, it's a drama.
No. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It's not reality TV. If that's
Okay.
what you no.
Yeah.
No. These are not real people.
Yeah, that's
Carolina Shore, like
Exactly.
Jersey
Shore. Yeah. No.
It's a Carolina thing. I watched Sonic the Hedgehog, the live action movie that came out. It actually came out on Valentine's Day this year, 2020. It is directed by Jeff Fowler. It cost $95 million to make, and which is crazy, and it made $308 million.
Oh my gosh.
Thinking that Sonic the Hedgehog cost $5 more million than 1917 just doesn't make any sense to me.
Blows your mind?
It blows my mind, yeah.
Too.
But they probably, the stars in it are James Marsden of Cyclops fame, and Jim Carrey, who plays Dr.
The bad guy.
Egg, and we all know who Jim Carrey is. Mr. Rubberman. This was a good movie.
It's
It
impressive
was,
they got Jim Carrey.
yeah. It was a weird. There was a little bit of a history to this one because when they first released it, you probably saw a bunch of stuff about this one. When they first released images of the movie,
Everyone just raged
like
over it.
I would love to see a before and after, like But yeah, there was like, when they showed the computer graphic Sonic, there's a lot of folks that were just like, that's not gonna fly. That doesn't look good at all. It looks horrible, that sort of thing. So the internet went nuts. It broke the internet, as they say. And then,
So you
yeah,
can see
right.
it
And then
on the screen.
it was sort of a,
Oh, yeah.
like, it was kind of, they made it, like, at first they made it a little too realistic.
Too
Like, they
human.
tried to make it too human, but then they kind of
Because, like, look at the
phased
eyes.
it back, and
Like,
it was
the
like, yeah.
eyes
And if
are
they
looking
phased
way
it back a
human.
little bit and said, like, okay, I mean, it's a cartoon character. We can have him be from a cartoon universe, even, too. So that's what they did. But yeah, it's a lot of, the basic plot is that Sonic comes to Earth through some sort of, like, dimensional portal that they use with the rings. Like, the rings are kind of essentially the coins for Mario. It's like the currency. And he comes to Earth and, like, basically gets into the backyard of this house in this nice town, and it's James Marsden's house. And at first, like, he's sort of tentative and he doesn't want to talk to anybody, so he has this little, like, he makes this little, like, fort out in the woods, and he comes into town and watches people and grabs some food and stuff like that. And what he mostly watches people do is watch action movies, actually. So he gets all these ideas and pictures in his head and stuff like that of these action movies. And then eventually, like, I can't remember exactly what happens, but he gets knocked out or something like that, and, like, James finds him, or he gets hit by a car or something like that. And then James finds him and sort of nurses him back to health, and then they become friends. And then Dr. Egg has to, like, is hired by the government to track him down, because every once in a while he leaves a quill behind, and, like, the quill is obviously magic, or, you know, super powered, and with and a bunch of energy is part of it. So Jim Carrey looks like, just basically puts two car battery clamps onto it, very, very comical, like, thing, and, like, walks back into his computers and stuff and turns stuff on, and he starts to, like, it starts to thing, like, and he gets all excited and stuff. And Jim Carrey does a really good job in this one. I kind of thought he was sort of done with acting, honestly. But in this one, it's sort of kind of his kind of character too. So he's eccentric. He's actually he's really eccentric. He doesn't take anybody's word at all. He doesn't even listen to anybody else. He thinks he's the smartest guy on the planet. And like, the only person he kind of listens to is his assistant, but it's really only to validate his opinions. So it's like, this is a really good idea, isn't it? So and so. It's like, yes, it is, Dr. Robotnik or something like that.
No.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember the last guy. Dr. Robotnik, I think it is. And then, and it's it's a good movie. Then they sort of go. James's character, his name is Tom, and he's the sheriff of the little town that Sonic crashes into, and he's actually, like, in the process of moving to San Francisco to be a big city cop. That's the whole idea. He wants to be a big city cop. He wants to do something. He doesn't feel like he's doing any good in the small town because he's getting cats out of trees and stuff like that. And then Sonic shows up. And then they eventually get to San Francisco and stuff like that. So I don't want to give away the end or stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good movie. I would say one up. You don't, like, I think I like it so much because I didn't think it was going to be very good when I watched it the first time. But then there's a whole bunch of, like, references. There's like 4 Olive Garden jokes in the movie, and they're all hilarious. They're not like, that's dumb sort of thing. They're all really funny, and there's a couple bits of timing that are really funny, and, like, and Jim Carrey does a really good job. He kind of smooths it all out, sort of, in his own way. But yeah, very good. Rated PG, so not much, no language. There's a couple like futuristic robot crashes that might get a little weird. And then like at the end, there's a couple. Well, there's no violence. I mean, there's a teeny. It's Jim Carrey and a big robot fighting a computer generated hamster. Or I mean hedgehog. Hamster, I
Oh
can't believe-
no!
So that's where the
Michael upset
violence
everybody.
is. That's right. That's where the violence is. So I mean, it's really only rated PG because of the live action element. If it was completely animated, it would be rated G.
So where would someone find that? Where do you watch it? Is it on
Right
a streaming
now,
service?
I didn't even think about that. Right now, I borrowed a hard copy from a friend.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's what I did.
So DVD?
So DVD. So yeah, I mean any
DVD rent on
damn
the
good
thing
DVD.
for $6
I
probably.
I bet you can rent it on Google, YouTube, and
Just all
it might
the-
be in a red box too. Are there red boxes still
Ooh,
around?
maybe.
Yeah.
maybe,
I mean, there are.
maybe.
I bet Sonic is in a red box somewhere.
Probably.
And then, but yeah, I would definitely suggest that it's way good.
For mine, or is Dexter? It's Dexter, and it's a TV series, 8 seasons. There's like 12 episodes every season. It's like 96 episodes in total. So it's
How
a
many
lot.
of you had a chance to see?
What, me?
Yeah.
All of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like they're like 50 minutes long about, so a lot of content to watch. Some of the characters that are in this, I like never see them again ever in any other episode. Like anything, like no movies. Got Michael C. Hall, Jennifer Carpenter, some others, James Remar.
Give us the years that they were producing the show. Is it-
2006 to 2014.
Okay.
The main character, Michael C. Hall's been in a bunch of stuff, but it was a while ago.
Oh, okay,
It
that's
was like
probably
stuff when
why.
he was a kid.
Is it
In the 80s.
is it like was it actually broadcast on TV?
Yeah, it was.
Showtime.
Okay. Sure.
Showtime.
Cool.
It was really cool. So basically, Dexter is the main character, Michael. He basically he's a blood spatter analysis. He works for Miami Metro, and he has a sister who's also in Miami Metro. He has some friends that are in Miami Metro. But the plot twist is that, or just the main part of the movie is that he just kills other people, like serial killers. So he's like a good bad guy kind of guy. Like once you hear about it, like for the first time, you're like, oh my god, he must be like really bad. But then he's like good at the same time.
Okay.
He kills people, but
Sort of like in a Robin Hood way. but
yeah,
only
Robin
for
Hood
murder.
kind of, but
Yeah.
murdering.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
starts.
pretty much.
So there's blood in it and stuff like that. They don't show like, I guess they show cuts, but they don't show them like cutting like this.
Okay.
They just show them like whatever. But so you don't actually see like the cuts. You see blood and stuff, so it's gory, but it's really not that. It's not that bad. But like,
Okay.
probably recommend it.
I mean, the classic
15,
image of the show
15
is
up.
like, yeah. The classic image of the show is him in his giant rubber apron,
Rubber
giant rubber gloves, like a lab coat underneath the
And then
apron,
his
with
own-
the shield, like with his like hair in a sock of some sort,
Yeah.
and then like kind of what people are wearing now, like when they've got the bands around the head, and then the shield is just completely covering your whole face, like your whole face, and then like boots, or then probably the little like no lint like sock booties too, so he doesn't like.
Yeah, then he has all of his knives laid out.
And this little like leather thing that he rolls, and it just
That's
classic
his
like
knife.
rolls out into like
Yeah.
all these little bits.
He
of
only uses
metal
like
and-
one knife though. He has like 20 knives. He's like, actually, I'm gonna use the same one every
It's
time.
Yeah, it's a good show.
It's
though.
really cool.
Yeah, I gotta do it a lot too.
It's really good. I like it a lot.
Where would someone find it? Where is it?
Just Netflix.
Netflix. Okay.
Yeah, if you wanna, it's pretty binge worthy, and
And they're like 50-minute episodes
50-minute
too. Like,
episodes,
because
yep.
it's an hour long essentially. Each episode is an hour long.
yeah, it's pretty big. Very binge worthy. I gotta watch like 3 or 4 episodes sometimes at a time, because I was just like, what's gonna happen next?
They set up the next episode like really well in the like it's a
That's why you want to keep watching.
the story arcs are very like you
Cliffhanger.
The character
kind of
arcs.
like yeah
Since
it's
there's so much time for like the characters, because they have like that's like 80 hours of content.
he gets married too, doesn't he? Eventually in the show,
Yes.
and like the lady has
Well, don't.
well, I mean the lady has kids. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah,
anything
yeah.
else. Yeah.
Ladies have
But
kids
yeah,
and stuff.
he gets
Like
married
the
eventually.
arcs are like just like huge. Like
Yeah.
for the characters are like massive.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing because they didn't
His sister has like the biggest
even they
roundabout.
like stuff gets tied up like at the end of the series. Some of them like
Like
they
the last-
knew how much time
the,
they had.
The
and
last
stuff.
season was literally just them tying up loose ends.
Like, pretty much.
Because they had so much stuff before it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. So you'd recommend it,
Yeah.
right? Well, what's our you know our discussion topic for the end? What's comedies, right?
First.
Like our top 10. I'm
Okay,
not sure.
say
I
that
only
again,
have
sorry.
10. We have our top 10 comedies, or we don't. I don't actually have 10, but I got a few comedies I can talk about.
So the discussion, yes, is top 10 comedies. We did top 10 action movies before. This, I feel, I kind of had a moment of not clarity, but of definition at the beginning of the action discussion. This one I don't feel needs as much. I didn't really choose any romantic comedies, really. I felt that was sort of a different...
It's another genre.
Oh, I might actually have one romantic comedy in there now that I think about it. But, oh, no, never mind. Okay, I chose a couple. Oh, and I put one down twice. Okay, well, there's a couple romantic comedies in there, but those are in the honorable mention category. So most of the ones I grabbed were goofy. Some of them were slapsticky. Couple Monty Pythons, couple Mel Brooks, that sort of thing. So
Which ones you got?
so, these aren't in really any order specifically, but the first one I've got here is A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which is an old 1960s comedy about ancient Greece. You've seen it, right?
Is that
And
Zero
it's got
Mostel?
Zero Mostel in it, and Buster Keaton is in it too, and
Yeah.
a couple other
That should be
people
pronounced
that,
name right.
shoot, I can't remember. Next one I've got is Holy Grail.
As in Monty Python
Monty Python's
and
Holy,
the, yeah?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
That's
or
what I
Monty
thought.
Python's Holy Grail
I think it's
No, Molly Python
and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense, I guess.
Classic.
And
Netflix.
I'm gonna get some flack for this next one, but not for including it in the list, but
Yeah.
I believe that Life of Brian is a better movie than Holy Grail. Holy Grail is
Yeah.
more just a bigger sketch comedy episode. I believe. I feel
Funny.
there's actual like plot and character development in Life of Brian. There really isn't any of that in Holy Grail. It's sort of just them encountering another weird situation and then encountering another weird situation. It's a funny movie, and I will watch it forever. And I will love it forever. But I think, as far as like an actual story and movie is concerned, I think Life of Brian's a better movie. Next is my Mel Brooks stuff is Spaceballs and Blazing Saddles. But I certainly could have put Young Frankenstein or Men in Tights in those two spots too. I just really could have flipped a coin or rolled a dice or something like that.
Yeah, Mel Brooks has got to have a spot.
Those are, and there's a whole bunch of ones that I don't, and I'm not as familiar with that are just as good or even better than those. And then I did Tommy Boy, which I mean that one's pretty straightforward. I think Tommy Boy's. I mean there's Tommy Boy and Black Sheep kind of. I think Tommy Boy is the Chris Farley's best movie, maybe even David Spade's best movie too. I think those two did a really good job in that one. I think. Animal House is next, which is another movie from the 60s, or made in the 70s about the 50s, right?
Yeah, I'd
Right.
say that's about right. Or 60s maybe.
Made, because I
I
think
mean, the
yeah,
music that they have in the movie is not 50s music.
not 50s music. You're right. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty much it's a
It's
period
sort of
piece
in
of
that time, that area,
in
right
71,
over.
72, I think that they're playing the same. I mean, they're
Right.
some of the customs, the frat house customs kind of
Are a little
bit more ancient, even
than
then.
the
Yeah.
music itself. Yeah.
But-
This is a one that is a little odd, but do you remember Loaded Weapon? The Lethal Weapon parody with
Yeah.
Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson. It has so many good like Lethal Weapon jokes and buddy comedy jokes and stuff like that, or buddy cop comedy jokes and stuff like that. And then speaking of buddy cop comedies, The Other Guys is probably the newest movie by at least like even 20 years on my list. That's Mark
pretty good.
Wahlberg and Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell,
I thought that was really good. I was very surprised by how good
Yeah.
that one. Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
Do you
I didn't
remember
think
with
it
the-
was as.
With The Rock
I
and
just-
Samuel L.
I
Jackson.
just
right
love
at
at the beginning, like Samuel
Those
Jackson and The Rock.
guys just yeah.
Let's go for
Such
it.
an odd it's such an odd setup, but it
It
works.
was such an odd
'cause-
setup, but it was so funny. It
'cause
was
that's what
funny.
it was.
I didn't really. I don't know.
I could have done just a top 10 buddy cop comedies because I've got Dragnet in my honorable mention.
I like
too.
the first. I like the first half of the movie, but the second half I don't really like.
It gets a little more
Serious
drama.
and boring. For me.
serious and boring, or just seriously boring, maybe. Understandable. And then number 10, if we're even counting, is Airplane.
Oh,
So
yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a
Kareem
great moment.
Abdul-Jabbar.
The hell I don't.
That's a great one. And that one's got such in the other parodies too, like Hot Shots. We grew up with Hot Shots.
Yeah.
That is another parody that is just second to none. It's so easy to make fun of those movies back then, but they did it in such a clever,
It
excellent
is.
way.
They can work. I'm not a huge parody fan, Spaceballs and Hot Shots, but I mean, I enjoy those two. I mean, if they're good, they're good,
Yeah, yeah.
And, but sometimes
And both of those,
Parodies.
both of Hot Shots and Airplane have sequels.
you
too,
picked
so.
picked a couple of good ones for parody. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's your 10.
Yeah.
I got a couple on my list that are the same. A couple that you didn't mention that I'll mention is Caddyshack, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Of course, with Chevy Chase and Rodney Dangerfield. I think it's Rodney's best movie.
Yeah.
He had one where he went back to college after that. That wasn't quite so good. And a couple
Head
of
of the Class?
something like that. It was,
Something like that.
Yeah. It's a couple of touch. I like touching comedies. I got a few here, on here like Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Harold and Maude,
That's a good one.
Grumpy Old Men. Those are
Yeah.
three. I find comedies like that to be kind of my favorites. Probably I saw Grumpy Old Men again. That is a good movie. That's got some really good actors in it, and possibly the best outtake reel of all
Oh,
time.
yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
With the Burgess
Walter
Meredith.
Matthau and, oh, yeah. And
Burgess Meredith, the old guy who's the
Right, yeah, the older guy.
Yeah,
right,
the father of one of
grumpiest
the
old man. Yeah,
grumpiest
right.
guys. Grumpy Old Man's
Those
dad.
guys do that one. Yeah.
And so that's
Is that the scene where he's in the?
they're in the fish house and he's making jokes about hot dogs.
Oh, right. Okay. It's the grumpier old man is when he's in the supermarket talking about
Yeah.
cucumbers. or whatever.
Grumpier Old Man is pretty good too, but
That's
not
good.
quite as
Not
good
as good.
Grumpy
No.
as Grumpy Old Man.
Yeah.
And Harold and Maude, I don't know if you call it a comedy, but it's a comedy. Yeah,
I'd say
it's a
dark
laugh-
romantic comedy. That would
yeah,
be good.
But it's laugh out loud
That
funny,
one's
I
great.
think.
That one's great.
Trains, Planes, and
Yeah.
Automobiles. That's in that's probably in my top 10 of all movies. But now some other ones that I used to be a high school teacher, and I don't know if anybody's ever taken study hall, but study hall always shocked me when I had to teach high school. I started late in life, and so I got to study hall, and I thought, God, really? I mean, is this really what it is? There's nothing to do. These boys got nothing to do. So I was kind of famous for. And one time, the kids said, "Could we watch a movie?" I said, "I suppose, because social studies class. They watch movies, you know, and so why not study hall, right? Of course, I'm sure that's against all sorts of rules, but anyway. So I said,
It is
okay.
now.
So I
It wasn't
said,
before you did it.
it's
It was
true.
after
It's
you did
true. So the movie that they chose was called Super Troopers, which
Oh,
was
There's no educational value in that movie at
that's
all.
well, actually, I think you actually get dumber watching the movie.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
fact, so anyway,
that's
the
definitely
movie
possible.
started. The movie starts with these guys rolling down the highway, and smoking a whole bunch of marijuana with the
Oh,
cops
yeah.
coming up on
Yeah.
it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what
Great
was I
start,
thinking?
great
And of course, then of course it was all my, you know, I was all, but we watched it. I can't. I'm sorry,
That's good.
my old boss. But so sometimes comedies, I bring that one up only because I think comedies more than any other movie depends on who you're watching it with a lot of times. And my other really good example of that is The Big Lebowski, which I don't know how that could not end it. And certainly, it wasn't on my list. I just remembered
Yeah.
it. But The Big Lebowski, I've loved watching it with Andy and my sons because we just laugh so hard. And I don't know if it would be that funny if you're watching it all
By yourself. No,
Yeah,
no
but
way.
it's
like
a
when
gas.
when Jesus is doing the ball thing, there's no way you're gonna be laughing at that by yourself.
I don't
But
know.
it's like
It's
you're
so
just
funny.
he's just sitting there so intense in it.
Exactly.
His face is just so into it. It's
That
so
has
good.
so many classic scenes. That's a great movie, actually.
Yeah,
but
it is a good movie.
even by yourself, probably. But so anyway, that's what I make that point about you know, sometimes comedies, for some reason the laughter is infectious, and if you're with your buddies and you're watching, they're great ones to watch when you're with friends or family. Like a good solid comedy like Trains, Planes, and Automobiles during the
That's a good
holidays.
one with family. Yeah.
Or something like that, or the National Lamp, what's it
Christmas
called?
Vacation.
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah,
Is that
that's a
National
good-
Lampoon?
Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
I mean, that's not that funny, but when you're with your family,
That's probably the best vacation one of them too. I would
it's
say.
yeah. I mean, it's
That's probably the
fun
best
to watch that way, you know.
Right.
So anyway, that's my list.
yeah. My list is I have kind of a lot of the same ones, but I was thinking Big Lebowski because it's just so funny with family. I'd also say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a good one as well. And 3 Mel Brooks movies, I would say Spaceballs, Robin Hood. I like that one a lot.
Mhm.
And Blazing Saddles. I also had another one, or a couple other ones. I had Dinner for Schmucks. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
that one?
yeah, that's a good one.
I like that one a lot. I really like the soundtrack in that one as well.
Sure.
But as a comedy, it's really good too.
hmm
And it's kind of like another heartwarming comedy.
Kind of is, yeah, yeah.
Um,
One sleeper that I just knew I would not like. Speaking of something more recent, you know, because a lot of these movies I'm talking about are old movies, but there was a movie called Bad Moms, and I swear to God, I thought it was going to be terrible, but
Mila Kunis and the like, yeah.
Kristen Bell.
Kristen
yeah.
Bell, that's right. I can't
Yeah.
remember the
And
third one.
I thought
there's
it
a
was
sequel
so
to it. The
fun.
sequel to it is not so great, but
Christmas.
the Bad Moms
So
one, the
great.
first one, is pretty darn funny, and it's a good family movie too, and it was funny. Yeah,
I think I watched one by myself and I laughed by myself.
I know,
a
yeah, well,
lot.
it's fun. I sometimes
Super raunchy.
on these lists, yeah, super raunchy.
I'm gonna rattle off my honorable mention list here. I just have a couple that I didn't get on the list, but I've got Dragnet,
Oh yeah,
Soap Dish, Coming to America,
oh yeah.
Groundhog's Day,
Oh, we forgot that one.
Blues Brothers,
Oh,
and
man.
then Mad World.
That's
Yeah,
good.
you seen that
Groundhog's
one?
Day on
The
the
original
list,
one or
too.
The the original one,
Okay.
not Rat Race.
That's right. Was that a
Or I
movie?
mean, that's
Is that what
the
they call it?
newer one, I guess.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
there, is there one in between?
I don't know. I think that's it. I don't know. But yeah, Mad World
It's-
is great.
The scope of it and the comedy in it is incredible. Like I don't know. I've only seen it 4 or 5 times. It's not one that I go back to every once in a while, but like it stays with you. Like there's so much like visually very interesting,
Yeah,
even for a movie made back then.
yeah, yeah. It's got to be like late '60s, early '70s.
And like Buddy Hackett and stuff like that. Those guys are like, and Ricky or no, shoot, I can't remember anybody else. Buddy Hackett though. I know Buddy Hackett's in it,
Yeah.
and Spencer Tracy. I know Spencer Tracy's in it. He's the cop at the end.
Yeah.
At the end. At the end. But yeah, if you have a 2.5 hour stint of time, and you want an excellent older comedy, Mad World is the one to go with. It starts. I mean, it might start a little slow, but man, it is good, and it ends so well. And it's basically just one big car chase from, like, essentially Santa Fe to Los Angeles, or I don't even know, but like that sort of area of the country, that distance essentially, and it's really funny.
So we didn't have any stinkers this week.
No,
We had 1917, which we all recommended. Outer Banks, the new Netflix series that I watched. Sonic the Hedgehog that Andy watched, and then Dexter, the long older series that's also on Netflix, and we gave them all 1 up. So
Yep, thanks for watching.